Okay, so this is Kal Kal the Catster, and this is a review of the New Mutants. um, I have finally seen it. I got it as a birthday present. So technically, it was free, so it didn't feel like I had to complain about how much it cost because I didn't pay for it. It's free with a Target coupon. Um, yeah. Okay, what did I think about the New Mutants? I know that like 6 months ago came out in some theaters somewhere, and also on online. And I didn't want to pay extra for whatever the Disney streaming service to see it. And also Milan came out on Blu-ray. So if anybody, the new Milan movie, yeah. If that ends up on a bargain bin for $5, but I'm not going to get it now when it's 27. No way, I'll wait till it's $5. And then rip it. Yeah, this one. I'm thinking the guy thought, the director thought, he's definitely an ex-Pine Hill student from back in the day, and he, well, maybe not, but somebody similar. I was probably thinking, well, One Flew Over the Cuckoo's Nest, Shutter Island, and Sucker Punch, and I'll just kind of put that together with a little bit of The Tall Man and a little bit of Nightmare on Elm Street 3, a little bit of John Hughes. There was a Hughes person in this, one of the descendants of John Hughes in this. So there's a reason it has a little John Hughes in it. And Marlo Fuck You was in the not the mine scene. He was is about kind of like a Deadpool 2 where they attacked the building, but they didn't do that. It basically is Sucker Punch without the dumb flashback things to the evil bad guys, but they're in another world. It's some of that's in there, but some of it. There's only apparently one doctor who was a vet, apparently, in the whole place, which, in terms of bad guys, doesn't make any a sense that there aren't any guards. The one guard that was Marlo Valkyrie he had killed early on, yes, he was killed. He would, also, there was a voiceover with the priest guy. That was him. You sinner, you witch! Yes. 4 years ago. Yeah, they filmed a lot of this 4 years ago. It appeared there were people from Stranger Things and the Terminator movie, the Dark Fate, in here. I don't know if there were. I might be confused, so don't quote me on that. So yeah, it was a little slow going. It didn't. It had a lot of whispering and undertones and things like that. Friday the 13th, not Friday the 13th, Nightmare on Elm Street Part 3 was in a sanitarium. It had a lot more shouting and yelling. It was a lot louder movie. Well, kind of the same idea. A little bit of Halloween, Michael Myers in there thrown in. Clearly, the director was trying to make a throwback to those movies, but not so much Glass, because he realized that was not good. But similar in tone, I think. Trying to find their powers. Does beg the question right off the bat, if the Essex Corporation, I'll give away spoilers, the Essex Corporation was actually doing this to find their powers and then try to exterminate them later, wouldn't that be a defense mechanism that would make them all immediately want to kill all the orderlies and the lady in charge, the doctor? Wouldn't that actually make them want to go after them? It's not exactly the best plan. It's very similar to the plan from Battlefield Earth, where they had the inept, incompetent bad guys telling the good guys about things and instructing them in how to make planes and fight. It's like, why would you do that? That defeats the purpose of being a villain. You're just a villain to be evil. Doesn't make sense. So it's young adult fiction, typical young adult fare, of course. But yes, There's, of course, a lesbian scene that set off all the anti-SJW people early on. But it really was innocent and harmless and really wasn't anything. It was just, oh, I'm going to kiss you. Was it? It was really, really done tastefully. It was not. There's nothing about it that was not tasteful. Yeah, it's like it flies off the rails in the third act because it's slow in the first act. But I don't think they reshot any of this. I think I read some of the other reviews were like, oh, they're thinking like they had to redo a lot of it. I don't. Then the director later said, no, I didn't redo any of it. It just took 3 years to come out. They kept just postponing it. It should have been out probably right after X-Men Apocalypse, to be accurate, or maybe slightly after that one. Maybe not quite the Dark Phoenix one. It would have been before that, chronologically. But it would be chronologically before Deadpool, even, because they already racked the building. But yeah. So it wouldn't really fit in the other timeline of the New Mutants, and their powers were a little dodgy, but I didn't think they were trying for the suspenseful X-Men movie. They were trying for a horror movie. Mark's Cards would probably point out that PG-13 for a horror movie is not a horror movie. That's what this was, PG-13. It's not scary enough. You're not really doing anything that is suspenseful enough to warrant. And yeah, there could have been some stuff that was done a little better. The girl has apparently, the Indian Native American girl has psionic powers. She has the ability to project psionic fear powers, sort of like a weird version of Jean Grey, I guess. A little bit of Professor X in there. There's a werewolf girl who's the Scottish girl, of course. There's a guy that's like a Human Torch type of character and a fighter guy. There's another guy that has rocket powers, that uses his rocket powers. There's a I guess like generic European. Eastern Ukraine, some kind of Eastern Europe accent lady whose accents all over the place. I think they had to dub some of it because it wasn't a good accent, so they just kind of went with it. She, yeah, at times that voice is odd in there. So there were a lot of flaws, but it wasn't really all that bad. It was just that was. I think if it was in theaters and there wasn't a COVID going on, it would probably get like 2.5 stars, almost 3. It would be entertaining. It wasn't entertaining, but yeah, it wouldn't be like 1. Some of the critics are like, oh, this is really the worst thing ever. Have they seen the other X-Men prequels? Because yeah, this movie is better than most of X-Men Apocalypse's last chapter. The X-Men Apocalypse was a mess. The last chapter of the Dark Phoenix reboot was a mess because they did reshoot that one. Because it was too much like Shazam, and it was too much like Captain Marvel. And Shazam and Captain Marvel were related. Way back in the day, they were copying each other. The DC and Marvel were copying each other. It's a big thing. But in this case, they weren't copying anybody. They were trying to be their own original thing. And I think it by kind of emulating other horror movies, and that's what makes it different enough that it gets between 2.5 and 3 stars, because they were trying really hard to make it interesting, and they just kind of missed it a little bit. It would have been 3 stars. They were almost there. But then they fight the giant mind bear at the end. And it's just like, okay, yeah, they just got the peyote and the marijuana, and they just started going like, they try to euthanize the girl at one point. But if she has mind powers, that does beg the question, and she's manifesting them, then that does beg the question. If she can do that, why wouldn't she just go Dark Phoenix, Dark Fate on everyone, blow the doctor lady's head literally off of her shoulders, because she could. Like, imagine her head going, and then she would just be gone. then she'd be gone. Sure. But they didn't do that. They injured her, and there were no other guards. I guess mutants was to kill them all. Um, it wasn't connected to Deadpool 2, although they kind of implied it at the end of Deadpool 2 when he goes to the insane asylum for X-Men kids and frees them and fights them. Yeah. I would say of the X-Men movies at Fox TV, the coolest ones were probably X-Men 1 and 2 and Logan. And yeah, pretty much. First Class was a little odd. It was a little off. Last Stand was terrible. Especially the ending with Dark Phoenix doing things she shouldn't have done. And having blowing people apart. And yeah, the latest Phoenix one was pretty bad. It was trying really hard to be the cartoon from 1994. No. This one was trying really hard to be a remake of Sucker Punch, but better. But Sucker Punch was trying to imitate other movies like it, like Shutter Island. And I think Shutter Island might have come out after Sucker Punch, so it wasn't emulating Shutter Island. It was imitating other movies like that before it, like that one was imitating other things. Mainly Nightmare on Elm Street, Part 3, where they were in the sanitarium. Yes, Nightmare on Elm Street. I meant it said Friday the 13th or Halloween 3. I meant Nightmare on Elm Street 3 with Freddy in the sanitarium. So there's a creature in it that looks like a Jack Skellington tall man thing running around, funny face. It's odd. Its earlier versions of him just has a face like a happy face. Like they were like, but I guess they wanted to manifest him a little creepier. So they redid like a guy that actually looked creepy, but he's not really. He's a mind creature. I take it so the basic premise is they're in the sanitarium and they're doing their thing, and their powers. The evil witch lady in charge of the whole thing is up to no good, of course. Trying to figure out what their powers are. Some of them get out to go hang around their secret spot or whatever. They do a lie detector test scene. They kind of don't like each other for the first 2 acts. And then the 3rd act, they kind of team up because out of desperation, they'd basically be in the Brotherhood. Magneto would call them and have them be in the Brotherhood. They'd be villains, which is cool. But they end up trying to be sympathetic villains. Yeah, and then they have to fight the images because the little Indian Native American girl gets captured and is going to be executed by the evil witch lady that's in charge of the place, and they have to free her. And then when they're doing that, her mind powers get all over the place and start creating those ghouls and tall men and the giant bear which attacks them. So the basic premise is just bizarre. The 3rd act is just all over the place. They were obviously on lots of copious drugs. But yes, in the end, yeah, sure. You have a movie that is fine for a rental. I think it's fine. I mean, there's a lot worse PG-13 horror movies out there. You can watch the first Saw movie or the first Final Destination movie or something. Or the 3rd one where the car. Those are kind of fun. Yeah. It's kind of slow going in the first act. Kind of like Color of Space was in the first act. Yeah, a lot of these they could have. I think a lot of people were turned off by that slow going first act where there wasn't a lot. They wanted to build up what they could do, and then didn't think about what they could do. The Slavic girl has sort of an Iceman sword, like She-Ra power, I guess, that makes her able to a sword in her arm turns into a sword, like a sort of a cross between the Terminator, the T-1000 or something, and maybe from Marvel the Winter Soldier a little bit thrown in there, and Excalibur, the other character, which they haven't put in Marvel yet. So she's sort of that. She's that character. Yeah. The does beg the question. How does that work? So I'm not sure whether it's fine. Way to kill 90 minutes. Sure, why not? I don't know if Stone Gremlins, I think in their review they didn't like it, but I think one of them kind of did when they reviewed it. I think they were like, well, yeah, all right. Yeah, so, I don't think Walkers did a review of it. If they did, they probably didn't like it. I think they didn't like it. Yeah, PG-13 horror movie. But yeah, it's fine. It was better than the Phoenix remake, but in parts. I thought the first 2 acts of the Phoenix remake actually did it well. It's just they lost it in the 3rd act. They should have just went with what they had with the Phoenix remake. They should have said, okay, yeah, this is going to be like Captain Marvel, but so what? And just filmed it that way. Because those other 2 acts, actually the 3rd act worked. In the original version, they should have went with it. It would have been better than the train chase thing. That one. Yeah. This one, they did not. I don't think they did any reshoots in this one, though. I don't think it was all a coherent thing all the way to the end. Their powers. I think that they just didn't finish the effects for like 3 years for some reason. And once they did, they didn't really match because they obviously blew their wad with the ending. Went back and shot the other stuff into the beginning to make it scarier. I don't know how much reshoots they actually did. It was probably more like they shot the movie and then knew it wasn't quite finished, so they kept shooting parts of the movie to add character and stuff, and lie detector test scene and all that. That was probably all added. The pool scene was probably added to be exciting. There's a scene where he's in the pool. There was going to be a love scene, but it wasn't a love scene. It was his fear that was going after him. She wasn't there. Yeah, so it wasn't. His fear was going to burn him. She had burning powers, and then he realized, oh, it's because he had burning powers. Yeah, the Human Torch kind of thing. They're probably not going to tie this into the reboot of X-Men. They're doing at all. They're not. Although if they did, they could kind of backwards sort of retcon some characters, and they could say the burning guy, is Torch from Fantastic Four if they wanted to do that. They're probably not going to do that, though. I think the new Fantastic Four movie is set in the past, as I've been told. Well, Bird told me. Set in the past, so like Captain Marvel was. So it's set in the past. But yeah, so they can do the whole Cold War thing. That's what I heard. Yeah. As for WandaVision, I don't know when that's set. It seems to have every era in it going on. But yeah, and Disney bought out. It's right around when Disney bought out Fox, 20th Century Fox, and inadvertently put that Kal Kal stuff. Fox, back to Disney again. We can't escape the mouse. Okay. Oh well. Yeah, so. What are you going to do? But yeah, so, go back to Paramount. Paramount. We'll do some Star Trek. We do season 2 of Lower Decks. I'd love to. That's right up our alley. I don't know how much Discovery season 4 will be up our alley, but Lower Decks. And Baby Picard season 2. Look us up. Paramount. Yeah, we're here. We're up there. We work for peanuts. But yes, yeah, and then tomorrow we get to the Transformers thing. Secticons. Yeah. Anyway, so that was the New Mutants. Not as familiar with the comic books of the New Mutants. I know my friend Tim used to have them. Probably still has somewhere. That was some of those. And the New Warriors from the 90s as well. New Mutants and New Warriors. Mainly New Warriors. I think. They had some New Mutants stuff. The New Warriors is different. That freaked people out. There was also the spoofy one that freaked people out. But it was clearly a spoof. He was clearly kidding. I mean, the characters were ridiculous. He's like, come on, man. No, I want to see that series. I want to see them do that. Not make it a spoof, but real. I want Snowflake and Safe Space as actual X-Men characters. Kind of funny. Oh, but yes. Her mutant powers to make your fear extend. Bear totem thing. Yes, not at all racist. No. Everybody's kind of obnoxious. The blonde girl was basically Chris from Pine Hill. And Libby. A little bit of Libby from Pine Hill. Except taller. Libby crossed with Angie from Pine Hill. That'll work. Except more, the Libby side, the more annoying. Angie wasn't annoying. Libby was annoying. But yeah, of course not. Anyway, so well, they all were like anti-hero villain types. Deadpool should have showed up at the end. That would have kind of made it a little better if at the very end they should have had a hook at the end of it like that. They should have done something like that, and had them wander out of the woods, and they, in a post-credit, they didn't have a post-credit sequence. They should have had one. They should have had them wander out of the woods, and then they get out there, and they arrive at some dusty place. They should have done this. They didn't do it. And either Deadpool or Wolverine, possibly Wolverine, would probably be better. Wolverine sitting there with a chiseled hat, everything, looking all all Logan-y, and he should go looking for Professor X. See, that would have been cool. There's your ending. Yeah, you guys look like you've been through hell looking for Professor X. Been keeping track of that shitty place 20 miles away. I was going to go there and kick their ass, but I said hell with it. Well, and then they go, well, it's okay because we blew it up. Oh, that's good, because it sucked. Now, here's Professor X's car. Dude, that would have been cool. Yeah. That would have been great. Oh, all right. Yeah, they didn't do that. Anyways, the New Mutants.